All right, so we're going to just finish up the notes from Chapter 4, Section 3 today. We were going to do this as part of that group activity that we started on Monday, but with me getting sick, I just didn't have a chance to finish that up, and I didn't really want to leave that with a sub so that just in case y'all had some questions on it as you're going. So first thing you need to see is the unit circle. A unit circle is a radius 1, is a circle with a radius of 1, and that's 1 unit. So it could be an inch, it could be a centimeter, it could be a mile. It's just a radius of 1. That's how we know it's a unit circle, because it's just 1 unit. We will soon be doing another kind of a group activity where we're going to be using a straw. 1 straw will be the radius of our unit circle. So when you're coming up with the trig functions using the unit circle, we've got some definitions here. This says, let t be any real number on a number line, and let p of xy be the point on t when the number line is wrapped around the unit circle. Then the trigonometric functions of t are as follows. Sine t is equal to y, because remember it was y over r. So in this case, since r is 1, it's just 1, or y over 1, which is just y. Cosine t is x, same reason, x over r is 1, so we've just got x. Tangent t is y over x, and again, x cannot be 0. Cosecant t, 1 over y. Secant t, 1 over x. And cotangent t is x over y. These are those same definitions we've been using all along. It's just now our radius is 1. So these are the definitions when you're using a unit circle. So the coordinates of p corresponding to the angle t can be written as p cosine t sine t. And so here is your 16-point unit circle. And this is what we were going to come up with using our the group activity that y'all were working on starting on Monday, which we will still finish that once I get back. But those all come from the special right triangles that I had y'all work on yesterday, the 30, 60, 90, the 45, 45, 90 triangle. Hopefully you'll be able to do that. This is hanging on my wall. But this is going to be something you're going to need to memorize. We'll start having some quizzes next week, memorizing that unit circle. Okay, so to find trig values using the unit circle, the first one I have here is find the exact value of sine of 7 pi over 6. If it's undefined, you write undefined. Looking back at my definitions, sine t is y. So just here on my unit circle, I find 7 pi over 6, and it has an ordered pair here at negative square root of 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. So I'm just going to write that down here. Negative square root of 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. And we're finding sine, which is defined as y. So the y value here is negative 1/2. So sine of 7 pi over 6 is equal to a negative 1/2. Okay, and that's our answer. Now we're going to find the exact value of pi over 3. So again, I go up to my definitions. And cosine t is equal to x. So looking at my unit circle, pi over 3, I've got the ordered pair 1/2 and square root of 3 over 2. And because cosine t is x, that means that the cosine of pi over 3 is equal to 1/2. Okay, one more. We've got find the exact value of the tangent of 4 pi over 3. So again, I'm going up to the definitions. Tangent is y over x. 4 pi over 3, okay, that's down here in the third quadrant. We've got the ordered pair, negative 1/2, negative square root of 3 over 2. And tangent t is equal to 4 pi, or is equal to y over x. So we would say tangent of 4 pi over 3 is negative square root of 3 over 2 over negative 1/2. So first thing I see is that the negatives cancel. Now I'm just going to do copy dot flip. I'm going to say negative square root of 3 over 2 times 2 over 1, because that's how we divide fractions. The 2's cancel, so we're left with the square root of 3. And that would be our tangent. Oh, I thought we were done. Here's one more. We're going to find the exact value of secant of 270. Okay, one last time. Let's go up here. Secant is 1 over x. 270, that's one of our quadrantals. We've got 0, negative 1. Just 1 over x, okay. So I've got 0, negative 1. Secant t is 1 over x. So the secant, 270 degrees, is 1 over 0. We can't have a 0 in the denominator, so we know that secant of 270 would be undefined. Okay, so that last one showed us a couple of things. It showed us that you can do this with degrees as well as radians. It still works in the same way. And that's how you do it with your quadrantals. It doesn't change the process just because it's on an axis. Okay. Okay, periodic functions. A function y equals f of t is periodic if there exists a positive real number c such that f of t plus c equals f of t for all values of t in the domain of t. The smallest number c for which f is periodic is called the period of t. So what you're looking at is where the function values repeat. And it has to be one that where the function's headed in the same direction and it repeats that same behavior. So you can't just say, well, I've got the same another value, but you have to look at where the function increased to that point and then where it increased to that point again, or where it decreased to that point or decreased to it again. So we're going to find the exact value of cosine of 9 pi over 4. So if you look at the unit circle, let me come back up here, of 9 pi over 4. Looking at the circle, I see that there is not a place where there's 9 pi over 4. We actually stop, the last over 4 we have is 7 pi over 4. So what we have to do is find the reference angle that would go to 9 pi over 4, or the coterminal angle. That's what we need to find. So 9 pi over 4, I know that 2 pi is 8 pi over 4. And so that means that pi over 4 would get us up to 9 pi over 4. And because it's periodic, excuse me, what that means is that a full rotation of our unit circle, our values will end up being the same again. So at pi over 4, we've got square root of 2 over 2 and square root of 2 over 2. And we're finding cosine. So cosine t is equal to x. So what that means is that cosine of 9 pi over 4 is equal to the square root of 2 over 2. Because we talked about before that those trig ratios are going to be the same as your angle gets larger because they are proportional in that way. Okay, let's do B here. We've got find the exact value of sine of negative 300. So again, I go up to my unit circle. You see why I want you to have this memorized? Okay, so we don't have any negative values, but we can find the coterminal angle that would correspond with negative 300. Remembering that for negative, we go in the clockwise direction. So far I'm at 90, 180, 270, and then to right here where the 60 degree is. That's going to be our angle that we're looking at. So our reference angle will be 60. So at 60, we've got 1/2 and square root of 3 over 2. And even though our angle measure is negative, that does not change the fact that in quadrant 1, sine will be positive. All the trig functions are positive up there. So if I'm just doing sine of t is equal to x, then what we found here, nope, sine of t is not x. Sine of t is y. So what we found here is that sine of negative 300 would equal, you know what, that was positive, sorry, would equal the square root of 3 over 2. Okay, we got one more. Find the tangent of 29 pi over 6. So we need to find where that would be. It's going to be quite a few rotations, I think. 29 pi over 6. So what I'm going to do, is divide. I'm going to do 29 divided by 6. So there's a 4 there. 5. So we've got 4 and 5/6. We need to get another color. Let's do green. Okay. So all the way around to 180, that's our 1 pi. Again is 2 pi. And then we keep going, and we've got 3 pi, 4 pi, and it said 4 and 5/6. So I need to go another half. Takes me to 4.5 pi there. And then the 5/6, so we'll just go a little bit further, knowing that 1/2 is the same thing as 3/6. Means I've got 2/6 more to go. So there's 1/6 and there's 2/6. So all the way around to 5 pi over 6. 5 pi over 6 gives us a ordered pair of negative square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2. So we're finding tangent of t, which is y over x. So I'm going to say tangent of 29 pi over 6 would be 1/2 over negative square root of 3 over 2. Do a little copy dot flip. Leaves us with negative 1 over the square root of 3. Rationalize your denominator. So we've got negative square root of 3 over 3. And it makes sense for it to be negative in that quadrant. That second quadrant, the only thing positive is cosine, and it's reciprocal of secant. All right, so that's the end of this section. Remember, there are 3 assignments due tonight at 10 o'clock. You should be able to get those done now that we have finished this section. Have a great day.